What's the most insane, unprofessional, or downright stupid demand your boss ever made? My old boss thought my job description included his personal errands. I was a software engineer working on complex enterprise solutions. One afternoon, he walks over, hands me his keys, and asks if I could swing by his house on my way home to let his golden retriever out and feed him dinner. He even gave me instructions on where the dog food was. When I blinked, he said, "What? You don't like dogs?" I just handed the keys back. My job was coding, not dog sitting. My first retail job boss was a real piece of work. Our store had a no returns without receipt, no exceptions policy, which was fine, until he told us to lie about it. If a customer was angry and didn't have a receipt, we were supposed to pretend to struggle with the system, then say, "Oh, I'm just getting a manager's override," and process it anyway. He said it made us look good and stopped complaints from reaching corporate. The level of blatant deceit was wild. I'm a pastry chef. Once, we had a huge catering order for a wedding, and the fridge unexpectedly broke overnight. All the buttercreams and fillings were completely melted. My boss, the restaurant owner, looked at the puddles and calmly told me to just whip them back up really fast. They'll be fine. He refused to waste the ingredients. I tried, but it was impossible. The texture was ruined. He actually got mad at me for not trying hard enough. We nearly served soupy wedding cakes. I worked for a guy who was obsessed with employee wellness, but in the creepiest way. We had a no sick day policy unless it was a major illness with a doctor's note. So I called him with a bad cold, sniffling like crazy. He called me back demanding to know what color my mucus was. Seriously. Said he needed to assess the severity and advise on appropriate herbal remedies he insisted I try. I hung up. He fired me later that week for lack of transparency. Our marketing agency's CEO decided our creative vibe was lacking. His solution? He demanded everyone wear their craziest hat to work every Friday, and we had a mandatory hat parade at lunch. If you didn't participate or your hat wasn't crazy enough, you'd get called out in front of everyone. It was humiliating, felt like kindergarten. Most people just wore normal beanies or baseball caps to protest, hoping he'd give up. He didn't for months. Working a small hardware store, my boss decided to optimize our inventory. He bought literally hundreds of a niche item, like obscure plumbing parts nobody ever needs. When they didn't sell, he instructed us to put them in the returns bin and then resell them as used, good condition items at a slight discount, saying they were customer returns. He genuinely believed this was genius. We eventually had to throw them all out anyway. During peak pandemic, my WFH boss demanded we install a specific brand of webcam that had eye-tracking software. He wanted to ensure we were constantly engaged during virtual meetings and not looking at other screens. He'd occasionally call people out mid-meeting. "Sarah, I just saw your eyes drift left for 3 seconds. What were you looking at?" It was incredibly invasive. I quit shortly after that. Nope. My old restaurant manager made us clock out for our unpaid 30-minute break, but then immediately told us we had to keep working. So, for half an hour every shift, we were legally off the clock but still prepping food, taking orders, etc. When someone pointed out this was illegal, he just shrugged and said, "It's how we keep costs down. If you don't like it, you know where the door is." Unsurprisingly, turnover was insane. I worked at a pretty corporate office, ostensibly professional. One day, my boss, who was clearly going through something, called me into his office. He said the team seemed stressed and unmotivated. His solution? He asked if I could bring my pug, Sir Reginald, to the office every day. Not as a therapy dog, mind you, but because he thought Reginald's squishy face would boost morale. When I explained that was highly unprofessional and probably against building codes, he just stared blankly and said, "But think of the smiles, Karen." I was a junior analyst at a logistics firm. Our warehouse had a minor accident. A forklift clipped a delivery truck, thankfully no one hurt. My boss, a slimy guy named Gary, pulled me aside. He handed me a pre-filled incident report, clearly downplaying the damage and omitting key details. He then looked me dead in the eye and said, "Just sign it, kid. No need to make a mountain out of a molehill. This is how we do things here." I quit a week later. My worst boss was at a pizzeria. One Friday night, we were absolutely slammed. Phone ringing off the hook, every oven full. My boss, Frank, who was supposed to be managing, suddenly pulled me aside mid-pizza making. He needed me to drive to his house, pick up his dry cleaning, and bring it back before we closed. He didn't even offer gas money. I looked at the chaotic kitchen, then at him, and just said, "Are you serious right now, Frank?" He nodded. I just walked out. I was interning at a small design agency. We had a huge presentation for a new client the next morning, and the main designer unexpectedly called in sick. My boss called me at 10 p.m. and demanded I come in to finish the pitch deck. When I asked about overtime pay, she scoffed. "Overtime? This is invaluable experience, a chance to show initiative. You wouldn't want to miss out, would you?" I finished the work, barely slept, and she took all the credit. Never again. I was a software developer. My boss, a complete micromanager, decided our team needed better synergy and life skills. His latest brainchild? Everyone on the team had to get certified in CPR and first aid. He insisted it would make us more well-rounded individuals and ready for anything, though our work involved zero physical risk. He even scheduled mandatory training during work hours, completely disrupting our sprints. When I asked if it was optional, he just deadpanned, "Is being a good employee optional?" I was a relatively new hire, maybe 6 months into my first real office job. My boss, a man in his late 40s, called me into his office one afternoon. I thought it was about a project. Instead, he leaned forward conspiratorially and asked, "So you're young, you're on the apps, right?" My heart sank. He then proceeded to show me his Tinder profile and asked me to optimize it for him. He even wanted me to swipe for him on his phone. I politely declined, citing a heavy workload. My name is traditionally Slavic and not super common in English-speaking countries. When I got my first job out of college, my new boss called me into his office on day 3. He sat me down and very seriously said, "Look, your name is great and all, but it's a bit of a mouthful for clients. How about we just call you Sarah?" He even had a pre-printed name tag that said Sarah on his desk. I told him my name was my actual name and it wasn't changing. He looked genuinely surprised. I worked at a small landscaping company. My boss was always a bit eccentric, but things got weird when he started having cash flow problems. One payday, he called me in his office, looking sheepish. He said his personal account was frozen and he was short on rent. He then asked me, his hourly employee, if he could borrow $500 from my paycheck, promising to pay me back next week. I just stared, speechless, as he acted like it was a completely normal request. My boss at a tech startup was a self-proclaimed visionary, which usually just meant unrealistic demands. We were developing an app, and he read an article about AI in a flight magazine. He came in the next day and decided we needed to integrate a fully self-learning neural network that could predict user desires by end of week. When I tried to explain the massive complexity involved, he just waved his hand and said, "Just Google it. It's probably a plugin." We didn't get that plugin. I used to work at a fancy boutique where the manager, Vanessa, was eccentric. One morning, she came in looking distraught. Her cat, Muffin, was apparently too stressed to go to the groomer alone. Vanessa seriously asked me, a paid retail associate, to take a half-day, clock out, and personally accompany Muffin for her deluxe spa treatment. She even offered to pay me in experience points. I declined, obviously. My paychecks were already in actual currency. I had a stomach bug from hell one winter, literally couldn't leave the bathroom. Called my restaurant manager, explaining I was violently ill and couldn't possibly come in to serve food. He got quiet, then told me, very seriously, just bring a bucket. He wanted me to come in, work my shift, and actively throw up into a bucket behind the counter if needed. I quit on the spot. A health inspector would have loved that scene. I'm a graphic designer, and my old boss was allergic to the color blue. Not literally, but professionally. I just finished a huge rebranding project for a maritime client. The logo was anchors, waves, very blue. It looked fantastic. Everyone on the client team loved it. He took one look and said, "It's too blue. Make it orange." He made me completely change the color palette for a maritime company because he personally didn't like blue. Worked for a wellness pyramid scheme company in college. It was as shady as it sounds. Our monthly sales targets were insane. One month, I was short by a huge margin. My regional manager called me into his office, pulled out a stack of blank sales contracts, and told me to pencil in random names and addresses, then sign them myself to hit my quota. "No one checks these, just don't make them too obvious," he smirked. I left soon after. My first real office job. HR was a bit of a wild west. After my engagement announcement, my boss, a woman in her 50s, called me into her office. She started asking about my fiancé's job, income, and then, quite seriously, "When are you planning to start having children?" I tried to deflect, saying it was personal, but she pressed, insisting it impacts future staffing and company planning. Totally illegal, profoundly invasive, and absolutely insane. I worked at a boutique coffee shop that prided itself on being modern and edgy. One morning, my boss called an emergency meeting. She announced our new mandatory dress code. All employees had to wear only black and white clothing and could only wear one single color accessory per day. Her reasoning? It creates a more cohesive brand identity and simplifies employee decision-making. We literally serve coffee. Everyone just looked like bored penguins. My old marketing agency CEO once demanded I commit professional suicide. We were a small ad agency and had a huge potential client, our biggest, who needed a final campaign presentation by end of day. The problem? We hadn't even started the campaign yet. My boss told me to present a completely fake placeholder deck filled with lorem ipsum, but to act super enthusiastic. He actually thought they wouldn't notice. They noticed. We lost the account. I was working retail at a small, independent electronics store. A customer returned a coffee machine that wasn't heating up. My boss, a perpetually stressed man, pulled me aside. He instructed me not to process the refund. Instead, I was supposed to tell the customer that the machine was designed to only heat water to a specific lukewarm temperature for optimal flavor preservation, and that true coffee connoisseurs prefer it that way. The customer just looked at me like I was insane. I gave him the refund anyway and quit a week later. My summer job out of high school was at a storage warehouse. We were unloading a shipment of flat-pack furniture, and one huge box got absolutely gouged by a forklift, a clear hole ripped through it. My boss watched me inspect the damage, then calmly told me to get a piece of cardboard, cut it into a perfect circle, and glue it over the hole. Now, he said, tell them it's the new, extra-large peephole feature for checking contents without opening. It's innovative. I almost choked. I landed my first big corporate job as an assistant in a marketing department. The creative director, a notoriously eccentric guy, burst into my cubicle one Monday morning, frantic. His cat, Sir Reginald, had gone missing. He then demanded I pause all my current projects to organize a full-scale urban search and rescue mission for Sir Reginald using our departmental budget, complete with printing custom missing cat posters on our large format printer. I spent half the day pretending to coordinate before HR subtly intervened. Back in my college days, I managed a late-night diner. One evening, the grill cook badly burnt an entire batch of bacon. It was literally black charcoal. My boss, who was notorious for cutting costs, walked in, surveyed the damage, and then, without batting an eye, told me to sprinkle some Cajun seasoning on it and serve it as smoked Cajun bacon. He insisted customers wouldn't know the difference. I just threw it out and cooked a fresh batch on my own dime. I worked at a local newspaper as a layout designer. We were putting together a front-page story about a serious proposal to hike local property taxes. My managing editor, who swore by engaging visuals, saw my draft. She then, dead serious, demanded I use a specific clip art image of a smiling, cartoon piggy bank wearing a party hat as the main graphic. Her reasoning? It makes taxes seem less scary. I had to fight tooth and nail just to use a generic graph. During my hospitality internship, I was helping manage events. A wealthy client insisted on having live doves released indoors during her wedding reception, despite the venue's strict no animals policy for health reasons. My boss, desperate not to lose the booking, instructed me to sneak the doves in and deal with the fallout later. He then winked and added, if anyone asks, they flew in through an open window. It's a sign of good luck. I refused, citing venue policy and my conscience.